So, good evening. I've had an announcement video that's been coming for a long time. It's been overdue, and after my two videos last week about the need for optimism and the need for change and the need to do new things that would inspire people to take on life in a more optimistic manner, I thought this would be the perfect week to release a video about new things going forward, about changes. And then reality happened. Then reality of America, reality of the West in 2017 reasserted itself. I thought that this would be a slow week, and we've just experienced one of the largest massacres in American history. And that's just on top of everything else that's going on. It's covered up essentially several terrorist attacks that have happened in Europe that barely got covered at all, and that just goes under the radar because at this rate, the amount of division and the amount of catastrophes that happen are just coming at a regular rate. They're coming at a regular clip. And so, I can't pretend to sort of embody the optimism that I was advocating, even in a video about channel announcements, because now I sort of, in order to be candid about reality and about what is happening moving forward, I feel before I really get to what I hope to be producing in the future, I have to confront the reality of what's going on in the West. And as I said before, I think, the West is in a bad way. We are entering a period of decline, a period of coming apart. I think everyone sees this. I think the violence that we see and experience on a weekly basis at this point is more or less just a symptom of this larger effect. And it's the effect of coming apart, it's the effect of disillusionment that really has everyone down. I mean, I see people on the left, on the progressive left, and they're feeling it too. They can't commiserate with me because we are of different tribes, but they see what's going on. And I think everybody does. But, we're no longer in the place where we really feel like we can talk about it, or at least talk about it to people who don't share our worldview. And I've just been thinking of just how the news of the last week and seeing the really asinine and depraved and banal reactions from the media, immediately politicizing. I've been thinking about how the events of the last week, all things considered, really play into what I've been thinking in terms of optimism and being positive and moving forward. How can you be optimistic and still be realistic? And what does this all mean? Because the malaise, the depression, the general despondency I'm feeling this week that a lot of people I see on YouTube in real life are feeling, obviously, this experience, it's not going to stop. It's not going to go away. It's not going to return to some kind of normalcy we experienced in the 80s and 90s. This is pretty much the new normal. And Trump leaving office or some other president being elected isn't really going to change anything. And I think the question is, what are we doing in this world? How are we confronting it? How are we dealing with the times? I gave a lot of vagaries about optimism in my last video, and I kind of felt like that was a cop-out because I talked about optimism being positive, developing yourself, all the Jordan Peterson stuff, and I didn't even really touch on the role of the very medium I'm talking in, YouTube. Right? I mean, what is the role of YouTube and online and in this world we've created? I mean, certainly there's no end of people talking about how Twitter and YouTube and online in general has caused this general coming apart, this malaise. I'm not so sure I buy that. Actually, I think it's a very, very remote possibility. I think it has to do with a lot of factors, including a lot of factors, that I talk about regularly on the show. Multiculturalism, the sexual revolution, technology, not just the internet. And this has all led to the situation we're in. And in some sense, I mean, I think that the internet is really just reflecting that back to us. It might be accelerating it a little bit. But the question I think that was unanswered by my previous video, and and probably was sort of a glaring omission from it, is if we're trying to take some kind of positive approach to an increasingly negative world, how does the medium of YouTube, how does the medium of podcasting and videos even play into this? And I was thinking about this quite a bit today. And I don't know, maybe this is some vainglory, but I couldn't help but think back to pre-World War II. I say a lot of times that what we're experiencing is the final culmination, or the end of the disillusionment of what was called the post-war consensus. The consensus after World War II that America was this normal place, that there was this defined American dream that almost everyone would experience, that everyone listened to the same radio, everyone watched the same television, everyone read the same newspapers. There wasn't that much difference between the political parties. That existed after World War II, and we're at the terminal stages. And in many ways, we've gotten into territory that was never even seen in previous pre-war America. But if we were to say, okay, well, the post-war consensus is gone, we can look to sort of hard times, hard depressing times in the American past. And the one that was sort of kind of fastened on my mind a lot was the 30s, the era of the Great Depression, the era of the New Deal. And this was an era where Americans felt alone. The dream that was promised them in the previous age hadn't materialized. And none of the new promises that America made to its citizens in the 40s really had been realized yet. And in that gap, I think media sort of played this critical role. I think that it was the Hollywood movies and the radio plays that were popular that drew America together a little bit in times of hardship. And they call it the golden age of radio. I mean, people were depressed. People had less. There's always this vision of this, a family on hard times listening to the radio, or, basically feeling some sense of community, feeling like they're not alone. And I think that's really what the big problem is, right? It's not just that there is this horrific massacre of people this week. It was the sense that not only had the massacre occurred, but that America was no longer unified in standing against these kind of things. That these tragedies would now play in a political environment in the most tiresome way possible. And that as we faced these hardships, we were kind of uniquely isolated. And I think people in the 30s felt the same way. I think people in the 30s felt that because the old American dream had sort of faded from the fore, they were alone. They were sort of alone with their own devices. They were in neighborhoods that didn't have the types of community they had necessarily been used to growing up in more rural areas. And they were searching for something. And the way the new consensus was built, the post-war consensus didn't come out of nowhere. It was built on the back of media. It was built on the back of people listening to media, listening to voices that they thought spoke to them, whether they were fictional or whether they were political, and feeling like they weren't alone so much anymore, feeling like there were commonalities, our problems are all the same, like the theme song from Cheers goes, which I always felt was sort of like, and it was a product of the 80s, but it seemed to sort of capture that very 1930s attitude of wanting to commiserate, wanting to know that you're not alone in dealing with these troubles. And radio and the movies played this role in the 30s, and it forged the post-war consensus. And maybe YouTube and blogging, far from creating the disillusionment that we're experiencing, is also the way out, or could be the way out of this. It might be the formation of new cultural spaces, not as unified as the post-war consensus, but places where people can find a voice that makes them not feel alone. So then they can go forward and have a more positive attitude, have a more positive way of processing these events that come up, these horrific tragedies that just make you feel isolated and despair about the future. That's not self-aggrandizement. I think that, a lot of voices on the internet are playing this role for people. I just hope that it resolves itself in a positive way, and I have faith that it will. Humanity, America, Western culture, we're going to get through this period of history. We're coming out the other end. Are we going to be unified on the other end? Is it going to be a fracturing to some degree? Is it going to be, a shrinking of communities down to more local or more specific cultural groups? That's a possibility, right? That's a possibility for the future, and it might not even be bad. It might be, in many ways, more authentic to what humans really crave. We're going to get through this problem, but I think what people look for online, and what perhaps content providers like myself and other people can generate, is some way of making people feel less alone and making people feel more able to take on challenging things in their life, like make them feel less like these events, these tragedies, just take the breath out of them and make them want to give up on life. You can't get anything done if you feel like that, if you feel isolated. So, I don't know. This is something I've been thinking about, and it's an interesting thing when you're talking about content creation on a platform like this. And it's made me think a lot about how to go forward. Again, I want to tell the truth. I want to be critical. I want to dissect what's wrong with the world. But hopefully, in dissecting and explaining and helping people understand, I can also just assure them that I'm in the same place. I'm looking out and seeing the same disasters you are. We're just trying to make sense of them together. And I think that's worth something just reminding people of. And I know that's a lot to drop on people's plates, but I felt like I had to say something before I got onto sort of the trivial component of this video, which are updates. Okay, so on to the updates. Now, some people said, looking at my last video, "Oh, are you shutting down the channel?" No, I'm not going anywhere. In fact, there's probably going to be some content expansions. I'll see what I have time to produce, but I intend to keep on producing content. And I think the first announcement directly related to keeping on producing content is I'm starting a alternative channel on BitChute. Now, why BitChute? Well, I had to pick one alternative, and BitChute seemed like the most stable free speech platform alternative to YouTube. They also sort of experiment with a very interesting idea of distributed hosting of videos, which is something that my friend Ben McLean mentioned, and I never really thought was possible, but it seems like they're doing it. So given that the interface owners are committed to free speech and that they can scale due to the distributed hosting, a lot like BitTorrent, BitChute to me looks like the most promising site for the robust option to make sure that there's always an option to keep your videos up. A lot of people know that I'm a big fan of Nassim Nicholas Taleb, and the idea that in all approaches strategically, a very good attack is what's called a barbell strategy, right? And a barbell strategy is you min-max, right? So we want one option that's very, very conservative, very, very risk-free, and we want another option that is high investment, high reward. And I think the alternatives here, YouTube gets me distribution, which no other site can, and BitChute, for present, looks like the most stable one, the one that's most robust, the one that's very unlikely to be taken down. And so that's really my approach. I don't really imagine that this channel is going to get heavily censored. I think that YouTube's got bigger fish to fry in terms of controversial content and in terms of the volume of the content. But, I wanted to be safe, so I've got some of my more popular videos up on that site, including one video on arguments versus narratives that got taken down by YouTube because of a copyright claim by BBC, which I mean, it was a Shakespeare thing, but really the video couldn't be made without using audio clips from that, and the audio clips got the video banned in all countries. So that's the next thing. That's the first announcement. The next announcement, even more exciting. My wonderful, beautiful fiance is starting a YouTube channel. I am going to be sort of co-hosting with her, and it's going to mainly concern, I would say, lighter fare, personal philosophy, culture. Right now, we're just doing some reviews, reactions to movies and video games we like and see, and we'll see how it branches off from there. I think she has a lot of ambitions to put her own views on, and the name of that channel is Catholic Wench. No, I did not pick this name. I think it's funny. It's not an attempt to do a bearing sugar tits thing. Actually, even though it's associated with an insult, wench just means girl. So, it's kind of a cute name, and I think it's actually, it has a kind of a kick to it too. So I have a link off to the side, that side. And if you click on it, you can get to that channel and subscribe. I imagine there's going to be content coming out a little less than every week. But for the time being, it's going to be just culture, and it's probably going to be a lot lighter fare than you encounter on this channel. My wheelhouse is still analysis, it's still culture war, it's still going to be on the darker side. If you have to bring other people in to be the positive side, well, you can go see the content generated by my better half. So please go subscribe. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to the project. So the last and not least announcement I'm going to make is that, this is really relevant for only a few people, is Patreon funding. I am going to be going monthly. I fully intend to keep producing content regularly. I can't guarantee that it's going to be completely consistent, but I can pretty much guarantee there'll be a video every month. You know, it could be a really long live stream that I work on. It could be a video series. It could be something that is a written essay. But there'll be something every month, and most likely something every week. That's been the rate I've been going at currently. Now, why am I going monthly? Well, first of all, because a lot of people requested it. Second of all, because I could never figure out what videos I should monetize and what videos I shouldn't. And this is really hard because, the alt-right series, I think I submitted that as 2 videos. It was almost 3 hours long. That was more content than I produced in the entire 2 months of March and April. I didn't monetize at all the video of Christy Winners, which took an incredible amount of time to organize and prepare. So the monthly thing just takes the consideration of what counts as a monetized video and what doesn't for patrons off the table. I'll produce content at more or less the same rate, but it's going to take the thing off as just an official video that needs to be monetized, and to say, the channel is monetized every month, and there's going to be a video every month that's going to be substantial, so you don't need to worry about it. And I think it also sort of gets rid of this perception that you're going to get charged for 5 videos every month. I've released 5 videos some months, or 6 videos some months. I never actually charged patrons 6 times. So, it was a misperception. I only ever charged patrons once, or maybe max twice every month. So this is just more honest to what I'm doing. The content's going to be regular, and the charges are going to be every month for that. So that system is going to change, and I think this will be a lot more helpful to people and encourage a lot more people to support the project. But at any rate, I'm interested to hear what you think of the changes. I really hope you subscribe to the new channel, and I hope to see you all in future videos and live streams. Have a wonderful evening. Good night.